Remember when I asked you to vote on which pattern I should make for my all-white event? It was out of Simplicity 9550, mccalls M8037, and Simplicity 9701. Well, you did not disappoint, and neither did this garment. So you start out by taking some stay tape to stabilize those shoulder seams. Sew this into both shoulders using a basting stitch. Then we take our seam guide and we create a narrow hem at the back of the neck edge. Now let me warn you now, there is a lot of narrow hemming in this pattern. If narrow hemming is not your thing, this may not be the pattern for you, or if you want to be rogue, just do your own thing. Once I inserted my label and I had the narrow hem all pressed and in place, I took it to the sewing machine and I sewed close to the edge. Then I put my front and backs together at the shoulder seams using a basting stitch. So this next part always trips me up a little bit, but if I hadn't forgot my markings, I probably would not have had as much trouble. So I did leave off this fold line here, so I went back in to place it in so I could really follow the steps accordingly. So if you plan on making this pattern, make sure you pay attention to these next tips. Oh yeah, I haven't told you what it is yet, so stay tuned. So your front should be facing you, it's still inside out, and you have this piece that extends past your back shoulder. Okay, so what they want you to do on step 4, very confusing, you're going to fold this. This is your self facing. You're going to fold this back. Make sure that making sure that this meets up here with my with my back neckline. So you're going to fold here, and that's your dot. So your fold should stop there. What you're going to do now, the instructions tell you to do a double stitch for the seams. Okay, so you can go ahead and stick a pin in that so it doesn't move. I'm going to stick 2 pins. Make sure I have this end down. And if you want to pin this as well, you can. I'm going to go ahead and pin it because when I basted it, I didn't baste at 5/8 of an inch. I just basted down the center of my stay tape. So on your other side, you're going to do the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew at about 3/8 of an inch and then at 5/8 of an inch. You should have something that looks like this. And then you're going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, now that we've got our double stitches in, right where that end dot is, I'm just going to make a little tack. Now I can sew up the side seams to my bodice. And since we are doing double stitches on the sides as well, I am going to continue to make my first stitch lined up with the side of my presser foot here, and then my second stitch will be at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So the bodice is going to go inside the skirt piece so that they are facing right sides together. I'm going to match up all center seams and side seams and notches. Where those 2 dots are in the front, you want to leave that gap open because you're going to make a casing for your elastic. So once you have everything pinned and in place, you're going to sew around from dot to dot at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Remember, you want to leave the space between the dots open. Once that row of stitches is complete, you're going to do the same thing. This time, you're going to sew around at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance so that we can create that casing for our elastic. So the dress pattern is mccalls M8037, and at this point I am going to make the belt for my dress because I am making view A that has the deep plunge in the front. If you notice, we did not go back to close up that gap where we put the elastic in, and that is the secret to this dress and the thing that makes it unique and makes it pop. So once you've done your belt, you're going to take your belt, you're going to slip it through the top of the bodice and that hole that was left from making that casing, and you're going to tie a knot. Now the instructions give you perfect directions on how to make the perfect knot for this belt, and oh my goodness, it is to die for. Thank you all so much for helping me choose this dress. It was M8037 View A, and it won by a long shot. So it started out as a tie between M8037 and Simplicity S9550. And then when I looked at it the next day, 8037 was winning. I even looked at the suggestions in the comments, and 8037 just blew it out of the park. I really love this dress. I like this make. I'm excited about this view. I really, really like it because I just didn't think it was going to look like that. Even my husband is like, oh, yeah, you did that. So thank you all for voting, and I will see you in the next video.